Now, in a 12-step program, we talk about not forcing solutions. And one of the ways I've seen people force solutions is they have a script, just like, the addict has a script and they've given you your role in their, delusional world that they've created, the narrative that, it's not reality, but you're being forced into a particular position. So the loved ones will typically do engage in a similar behaviors. So it's like a form of magical thinking, and it goes, we have a narrative in our head. Oh, so and so is going to stop gaming, and they're going to be a loving and responsive spouse and a good father to the kids, and we're going to live happily ever after. Um, People do this all the time, not just with addiction. They do this, in other scenarios where they have it in their head what they'd like to have happen. Um, when I saw how there's some parallels to, the woman who fantasizes about how she's going to look on her wedding day, and she's got all these, expectations and everybody's around her, particularly the spouse, is set up for failure because no one can live up to that person's fantasies. So it's important. Addiction is a very harsh reality, very harsh, and presents great challenges. And the challenges are for everyone involved to look at themselves, figure out what part they are playing in it, and grow up, change, make adjustments, but grow up. Because addiction's dangerous. So um, if you have an expectation in your head, I would say it's pretty safe bet that's not how things are going to go. So whatever you imagine, fantasize, things are how things are going to be, that's not how it's going to work out. And if it does, it may be that you're so controlling that you've kind of micromanaged things into your little fantasy world. And that's not reality, but it's just how you perceive it. And of course, you're handing out the script to everybody around you and expecting them to conform with your little fantasy world that you've set up. These things don't work. They don't work. What I would say is that the God of my understanding has something incredible planned for you every moment of every day of your life. And rather than coming up with your very small, limited script you have in your head, you have to be flexible and pivot and be willing to embrace whatever comes your way, whatever God would have for you. That's a really blessed and privileged place to be. And our script writing attempts are very shallow, very immature, very childish. Right? Now, that whole spiel is kind of like point number one. Point number two, and this is where the rubber hits the road. From my personal experience, what I've seen is frequently, certainly in long years of watching chemical addiction, what I've seen is there's so much harm, there's so much damage to the relationship that, and there's so much guilt and shame associated that when the alcoholic does recover, they really can't be in a relationship with that significant other. There's just too much debt there. And they're trying to get free of whatever was, holding them in bondage before, and they need a clean slate. So they typically need to start over with someone else. That is the most typical scenario. They may be able to be, you know, um, great friends with their spouse, et cetera, and build wonderful relationships with their children from that day forward. But typically, they need a clean slate. That's not universal, but that's typical. Um, I just want to point out that depending how far deep they are into the addiction, there's tremendous guilt associated with taking advantage and abusing and lying too. their loved ones. And so when you're so deep in that habit of lying to another human being, it's hard to get out of those habits because, those those patterns are so fixed inside of the context of your relationship with that individual that sometimes you just have to change all of your relationships. So that's a little dive into reality. All right. And, that's the safe place is when you're engaging with the truth and you're engaging with reality. So I'm not saying anything definitively about your particular relationship. I'm talking in general terms about the impact addiction has on a long-term relationship with another person and what happens on the other side of sobriety and recovery. So let's do April 5th together. As wonderful as it is to see a loved one find sobriety, it often presents a whole new set of challenges. After all the years of waiting, many of us are dismayed when sobriety does not bring the happily ever after ending we awaited. We once knew exactly what to expect, and now everything suddenly seems different. The homebody is never home. The life of the party is always sleeping. Communication, intimacy, sex, responsibilities, and decision making all change. At the same time, problems that we always attributed to gaming may persist, even though the gaming has stopped. This stirs up some very strong feelings within many of us. Even longtime Al-Anon members may find it more important than ever to go back to the basics of our program and learn once more to focus on ourselves. It's all right to feel disappointed, skeptical, resentful, joyous, excited, or confused about our changing circumstances. By accepting whatever we feel and sharing about it with other Al-Anon members, we are better able to take care of ourselves. Today's reminder: I will allow myself the dignity to discover exactly how I feel about the changes that are happening today, and I will share those feelings with an Al-Anon friend. And here's the quote: Al-Anon gave me the awareness that what I felt did matter in all our affairs. So remember, when you're walking through addiction with someone, you need fellowship and you need support. And most people who don't understand addiction, they're going to get tired of hearing what you have to say, and they don't really have anything to say that would help or contribute to supporting you in walking through this relationship in a healthy way. So here's where it becomes even more important. So there's sobriety, and then there's, regression. They go back to their habits, and then there's sobriety, and then maybe there's permanent sobriety, and then the world shifts again. And many of the things we were blaming on addiction, we can't blame on addiction anymore. And then we have to re-examine ourselves and our lives yet again. So it takes a lot of patience to continue to support someone who's dealing with addiction. And that takes a special type of person. And that type of person is someone who's walked in your shoes. Remember, we all need support. You need it. Isolation doesn't work. Please, please don't try to deal with your problems with an addict by yourself. Right? Blessings on your day.